take our time to welcome each other in fellowship as we continue. Elena, you want me to write the prayer request or? Okay. Can you count? Can you spell? True enough. True enough. Uh, any prayer requests that we need to get into the bulletin for Sunday?
Can you hear me okay? Okay. Pastor Nick said he hoped it. He said they'd probably have to go up to Virginia, and he was hoping it would be Saturday instead of Sunday. I said, yeah, you've been having a hard time getting to church here lately, hadn't you? And he said to tell you to be sure and let you know that he hasn't. He will be back. Tonight, man, I can't see hardly. I have to pull this up, I guess. Tonight's study is entitled Faith Demonstrated in the Invisible. And the scripture reference that they gave was Daniel 3, verses 16 through 18. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he would deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were pressured to deny God, but they chose to be faithful to him no matter what happened. Let me read Exodus 20, 3 through 6. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. These Hebrew children knew what they were doing. They were being true to God, and it took a great deal of courage for them to take this position. They had counted the cost. They were well aware what the outcome of their actions would be unless God miraculously intervened. But this didn't change their minds. They trusted God to deliver them, but they were determined to be faithful regardless of the consequences. In verse 18 it said, but if not. While these men knew that God could deliver them, they also knew that God may have chosen not to do so. Faith in God may not translate into victory in every circumstance. If God always rescued those who were true to him, Christians would not need faith. What if God bailed you out every time? You'd get to where you expected it, wouldn't you? Do some people expect it? Yep. I'm good. I deserve it. Their religion would be a giant insurance policy, and there would be lines of selfish people ready to sign up. We should be faithful to serve God whether he intervenes on our behalf or not. Now, this wasn't in the notes, but in looking at the commentary, I came across this, and I'm so glad I did. I hope y'all learned something tonight, because I sure have. In studying this, I've learned quite a bit, but one of the commentaries, this is what they said. Their faith was comparable to that of Abraham, who was willing to sacrifice his own son if God required it. Let me read Genesis 22, 1 through 13. 1 through 13. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went unto the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father? And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. Like I said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their faith was comparable to Abraham's. But I want you to notice one difference. God asked Abraham to do something wrong. The king asked the young men from Israel to do something they knew was wrong, but God himself asked Abraham to do something that was wrong. Pagans sacrificed children. God tested Abraham not to trip him up and watch him fail. Abraham was confronted with a test of his faith and commitment when the call came for him to sacrifice Isaac as a burnt offering. Does God have to test us to find out what's in our hearts? No. He knows. He knows if we're genuine followers of his, doesn't he? Don't he know we are? He knows if we are or we're not, don't he? He knows either way. So why the test? God refines us through difficult circumstances. We can complain or we can try to see how God is stretching us. He knows us. He wants us to know ourselves. In verse 5, Abraham said to his servants, "We will come back to you." He had heard many times God's promise to create a nation through Isaac. He still believed it. Abraham discovered he believed that even if he had to destroy his son, God would bring him back from death. He didn't know he believed that till then. But he did. But he didn't know it. Obeying God is often a struggle because it may mean giving up something we truly want. We should not expect our obedience to God to be easy or to come naturally. God didn't want Isaac to die. He wanted Abraham to sacrifice Isaac in his heart. So it would be clear that Abraham loved God more than he loved his promised and long-awaited son. Why should we love God? God stopped Abraham from sacrificing his son, but God did not spare his own. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Abraham were not fair-weather believers. Fair-weather believers affirm their love for God if things are going well, but if calamity or misfortune strikes, they may turn and blame God for their painful situation. Genuine faith is the in spite of circumstances kind. And this kind of genuine faith is expressed in Habakkuk 3:17 and 18. I'll read that for you. Although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruit be in the vines, the labor of the olive shall fail, and the field shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stalls. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation. The Jewish, I don't know. I really don't know. The Jewish young men didn't ask, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they didn't ask, are we the only Jews who didn't worship Nebuchadnezzar's image? They didn't ask that question. They didn't ask what anybody else was doing. And they didn't even ask, where's Daniel? He wasn't there. I mean, they could have made a lot of excuses, but they wasn't concerned about if they were the only ones or where Daniel was or nothing. And Abraham didn't consider what people would think of him if he killed his son. Anybody in here want to ruin your reputation by doing something God told you to do that you knew was wrong? How important is your reputation to you? Would you do that? It was kind of like last Sunday's sermon. pastor who spoke said the only thing that mattered to them and us is what do we do with God's Son. That's it, isn't it? Doesn't matter about anybody else. Don't matter what anybody else thinks about you. But I just wonder, how many of you would risk your reputation by doing something that you knew was wrong, but God told you to do it? Would you sacrifice your reputation for the Lord? Now, I've got an old song. I couldn't find it in the hymnal. I thought we'd all sing it, but I couldn't find it. I don't think it's in there. So I want to close with this. Tempted and tried, we're oft made to wonder why it should be thus all the day long, while there are others living about us, never molested, though in the wrong. When death has come and taken our loved ones, it leaves our home so lonely and drear. Then do we wonder why others prosper, living so wicked year after year, faithful till death said our loving Master. A few more days to labor and wait, tolls of the road will then seem as nothing as we sweep through the beautiful gate. When we see Jesus coming in glory, when he comes from his home in the sky, then we shall meet him in that bright mansion. We'll understand it all by and by. Farther along we'll know all about it. Farther along we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. The invisible, having faith through things we cannot see.